Welcome to the latest edition of the Big Pod Machine with Pat Brennan. I'm Gordon Wittenmyer, and our terrific producer, Phil Didion's right behind the camera over here. We have a special edition of the podcast today. As we tape, we've learned this week that Pete Rose has been reinstated from the permanently ineligible list by the commissioner's office. We'll tell you what we think about that, whether you want to know or not. And
you're here with us, so we assume you want to know.
Well, we assume you're listening for some reason. But it's obviously the biggest news we've had around this team and maybe the city in a while when it comes to sports news. And we're still sorting through some of it. There's been reaction all over the place around here. We were at a field dedication today.
Yeah,
Pat. What are your thoughts initially on this?
Well, I think in some ways the confluence of Pete being removed, along with 16 other deceased individuals from the permanently ineligible list, the confluence of that with Pete Rose Day today at Great American Ballpark isn't like a total stunner.
No accident
to me.
there.
Yeah,
no way.
But at the same time, you and I were at the ballpark yesterday. I was writing up in the press box. You were down.
By yesterday, we mean the opener of the series against the White Sox when all this happened.
Yeah. I was writing up in the press box. You were down in, I think, the White Sox dugout waiting for their manager.
I was in the Reds dugout at the time this happened.
I mean,
and Terry Francona had just left the dugout, so I think he got word right before it went public.
So even if our spidey senses were tingling a little bit about some movement on the Pete Rose matter, it was just shocking to be there at the ballpark here in Cincinnati on the day this happened. I mean, it was you and I were witnessing history in real time.
Yeah, it's just funny. Sometime, so anybody who wasn't at the game or watching the game Tuesday, who doesn't know this, there was an hour 46-minute rain delay before the game. So we're at the ballpark and following the news. Game's delayed. The game starts. The game goes to 10 innings. Over the course of this very long night at the ballpark, it did dawn on me exactly what you just said, the historic moment that this represents. One of the biggest in the game, certainly one of the biggest in Cincinnati baseball history, but baseball history. And so now, you kind of want to see a little bit behind the curtain what all this was about. We know that, look, anybody that's read my stuff in the last year plus knows where I stand on this. I think baseball lost its moral high ground on the gambling issue a long time ago when it got into bed with gambling, and it's created a lot of problems for the players and the league, not the least of which is something we just saw again with Lance McCullers Jr. in Houston when he got death threats after pitching so poorly against the Reds.
You cannot separate the two issues.
No, and players on this team, the Reds team last year, told me specifically that it was in the context of gamblers that were making threats to them and their families, sounded very similar to the McCullers threats. So the league has stepped into a mess that it's still trying to figure out with this embrace of the gambling industry and the gambling dollar. When this is the league more than the other leagues that built a commissioner's office on this issue.
I mean, quite literally. Because of this issue.
Because of this issue, by the way, and the Reds were at the center of that because they were the team that the White Sox played when they threw the World Series in 1919. We all know that. Where I was going with this is my position has been on this. The baseball's lost the moral high ground and probably needed to re-examine the Rose case anyway.
Yeah.
Wherever they went. And Manfred's position has always been because of that relationship with the gambling industry. We need to be even more strident about this. Okay, I sort of get that. But the gambling, especially for young people nowadays on apps and in states where it's legal, I think in more than half the states now, it's become ubiquitous with this generation that's coming up, including the generation that's now playing the game. Yeah. And so these are at least problematic issues. And then we saw the Shohei stuff come out last year, and it came so close to the one player who has meant the most in the game's history, arguably, for marketing, international marketing and growth. That sends a chill up the industry spine when that happens. So it just seemed to me that there was a place to re-examine this anyway. I say all this just to get to the point that this decision came down in a matter of weeks after President Trump made a big deal at a meeting with Manfred and strong-arming him, basically negotiating. He was going to. I mean, this is months after Trump came out and said, "I'm going to pardon him." Pardon him for what?
Yeah,
pardon him to lift the ban? No,
it's not relevant to the Hall of Fame, certainly.
But what Trump's doing politically with immigration and some of the things that involve people from other countries being here, working here legally or otherwise, impacts baseball directly. And those were some of the things that were reportedly discussed when Trump met with Manfred recently and then came out and talked about how he's going to lift the ban. I hope that this was not a quid pro quo, because as polarizing as this is and as potentially ugly as this is to some people, that to me is a further corruption of anything that could have been involved in this decision. Your thoughts?
Point well taken and point well made. It's just a lot to wrap our heads around at this time. I mean, how and why we got here, I think we'll learn more about that as we go along, but we have come to the point where Pete is off the permanently ineligible list.
Yeah.
Now what?
Now what? That's the big thing, right? There's a lot of people out there that just assume this means he goes right into the Hall of Fame, but we know different.
And you wrote different. Tell us why. It can't happen. It's not happening anytime soon.
No. I mean, it just because he's eligible for the Hall of Fame doesn't mean he can go in tomorrow because somebody approves him.
Yeah.
The process now is the new iteration of the Veterans Committee, which is, they call it what do they call it? The ERAs committees?
Yeah.
ERAs committees. That's what it is.
Very Taylor Swift of them.
I wonder if that has anything to, maybe they're trying to get her over from the NFL. Yeah. You know, they do try to kind of NFLize where they can.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
Yeah. So maybe they can get the other Kelsey brother to start that process.
Right.
So anyway, the way this works is, of the 3 ERAs ballots, he's eligible for the one they just had. And these are rotating ballots. Yeah. So the one that just got Dave Parker in, for instance, Dave Parker and Dick Allen, that was a vote in this past December for the induction ceremony this summer. And so we have to wait until December of 2027 for Pete Rose's next eligibility. And even that's a process, because I was just reading up on the specifics of it, mostly just to remind myself of it. There's a committee that gets together to put together the 8-person ballot.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can all presume he'll be on that. And then it's a 16-member committee that gets in a room and decides whether he gets in, or they vote, and they debate, and then they vote. And the way it works
and what are the voting blocks? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so there's 4, right? And one of them is my understanding is 4 of the 16 are former players, Hall of Famers, I believe. 4 are media members, veteran media members.
Yeah.
4 are executives or former executives. Tony La Russa was on, I believe two committees ago, maybe even the last one, and then what they classify as historians. So there's your subgroups within the committee, and then they get together, and when they vote, only 3 candidates can appear on any one ballot. So that creates 48 total votes, and you need to appear on 12 ballots for induction. So 75%, just like the writers, 75%. Yeah. But for anybody who doesn't know, I mean, it's not going to be the writers voting on this.
Yeah.
It's gonna be this committee, and there's no guarantees. What do you think that he gets in based on that general makeup of a committee?
I mean, we were talking about this before we came on. I'm not sure. I really am not sure. Yeah. There was a lot of cause for celebration. It was a really interesting scene at the ballpark last night, and I'll get kind of a roundabout way of answering your question.
Well, you tweeted out
the Reds threw up. There was some advertising attached to a prompt on the video boards, kind of announcing really more. At that point in the night, it was pretty late, around 9 o'clock.
Everything last night was late.
Yeah, just reminding people that Pete and Shoeless Joe Jackson had been, and 14 others.
Hey, let me 15. Cut in right here because this pertains.
What, breaking news?
Well, The Athletic reports that Mike Schmidt calls Pete Rose's newfound eligibility for the Hall, quote, a great day for baseball. Now, people who have followed this story may remember Mike Schmidt, the Hall of Fame third baseman from the Phillies.
Dayton native.
Talked to the commissioner on Pete's behalf as a former teammate at one point, trying to help get him reinstated years ago. Yeah. So I just wanted to pass that on.
Yeah, that's great information. Well, look, this is the thing of it, and I think I was getting around to saying this. Some cheers went up when they put this on the scoreboard. That it was like a "Did you know?" prompt. Did you know that MLB removed from the permanently ineligible list Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson? Some cheers went up. Some people were really excited about this. Obviously, people like Mike Schmidt have come out and said this is a great day for baseball. It's still a divisive issue.
Oh, and yeah.
Getting back to I think your original question, Gordon. This is a celebratory moment for some people, including some in the game, some high-profile people in the game. But this does not mean that Pete is a lock for the Hall.
Yeah, there are, ever since this news came out, there's been stories nationally from all corners, some of them suggesting exactly what you just said, celebratory, but some of them suggesting that they don't think he's going to get. We talked to somebody before the game yesterday, somebody who's been in the game for close to 60 years, who knows a lot of people in the game, who doesn't think that Pete's going to get in the Hall. I think he will, but I can't tell if I'm a little biased on that.
Well, you feel strongly about.
I think he should be, but that I've got my way of thinking on it.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think if he does get in, it'll be close. There's no. There's no way on God's green earth that he gets a unanimous selection.
Yeah.
So it'll be close. I suspect he'll be the strongest baseball candidate on the ballot. I can't imagine there's a stronger one. I mean, even if Shoeless Joe Jackson's on it, Shoeless Joe was not just banned for life because of gambling associations, but he, for accusations of throwing a World Series. And now he's eligible again. But remember, Shoeless Joe Jackson was eligible for the Hall of Fame until 1991 and got some votes, but never got close to induction. Mm-hmm. So he kind of had his shot, even though he was banned from baseball.
Yeah.
Should we explain that?
Sure.
What? Because people may not know that being banned from baseball per se on that permanently ineligible list didn't mean you were banned from the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Until 1991, when Pete Rose was going to be eligible for the first time, and the Hall of Fame decided they were going to cowardly hide behind MLB's decision, and just avoid their own potential shit show, and decide, no, if you're on the permanently ineligible list, we're going to make you ineligible. And as it turned out, I think something like 40 writers wrote Rose in as a write-in candidate that year, and which might have been enough. It takes 5% to stay on the ballot the next year. If he had been on a ballot, it might have been enough to keep him on a ballot, but they threw those votes out. And so what that did was, and this to me, by the way, is fascinating. Because this is a reasonable rationale, and sort of parsing that the commissioner did to hand down this decision. What the commissioner's decision wasn't that Pete Rose is off the ineligible list and so is Shoeless Joe Jackson. What he said was, once you're deceased, you're now no longer a threat to the integrity of the game. Therefore, you're not. It expires. Your ban expires. In essence, making it what had been forever called a lifetime ban, an actual lifetime ban, which, by the way, until 1991 was a lifetime ban in effect, because you were still eligible for the Hall of Fame. There's only one thing that differentiates, that makes it permanently ineligible ban not a lifetime ban, and that's anything that's residual after you were to die, like eligibility for the Hall of Fame. So,
well,
I don't know. It's been so long, man, that I don't know where the generation of voters who will be on those on that committee at that time are gonna fall on their perceptions of him. Certainly, some of them will have known him. I will say this, and this is one of my takes on it, and just to, life is messy, life is nuanced, life is gray, and when you make sports as big as we do in this country, and you raise up 20-something-year-old professional athletes as heroes to kids, to the point of buying jerseys and stuff like that. I mean, it's fine. There's a lot of that's innocent, but you also kind of set yourself up for disappointment if the curtain ever gets pulled back, and because these people are all human, and nobody's more flawed in a human way than a 20-something-year-old with money and health enough that they're a professional level athlete. I mean, you think you're bulletproof. You take risks by nature, and so if we knew everything there was to know about the lives and times of some of our heroes over the years, I think maybe it would dampen quite a bit. Some of our hero worship. You
and I this morning were over in the Sedamsville neighborhood of Cincinnati for a dedication or a rededication, as the case may have been, of Pete Rose Field in the Boldface Park. Fawn Rose was there. I mean,
Pete Jr.
Like there were, I think, members of the extended family certainly were there.
Most, if not all, his kids were there, I think.
A
lot of grandkids
who posed with Fawn around a really nice plaque. It was that was erected in the park with Pete Rose's name on it and the date and all that good stuff. So, we can sit here and think critically about Pete Rose's candidacy and the kind of scrutiny that he will face in this process. But we were just up close and personal with the personal side of this, the human side, if you will, of Pete Rose's candidacy, which is his family, to whom this means a great deal to. And you had some extended conversations with
Pete
these people
and Fawn both, And I mean, we I guess this is kind of to your point, like in talking to them and them telling what it means to the family and that they wish their dad was there to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we can get into all the reasons why it was never going to happen while he was still alive.
Yeah.
But Pete Jr. at one point said, I'm still processing that my dad's gone, and so all of this stuff, we're talking about all this stuff. Like, does he deserve to get in and all that? And this is just kind of another one of those levels of the humanity of this that's involved. And Pete Jr. went on and he got to the big leagues with the Reds briefly in '97. And he tried, he was there on the field. Most people who know anything about Pete Rose Jr. probably nationally remember him because of the hug on the field when his dad got the record-breaking hit.
Right.
And so, we tend to conflate this with all these sports moments that mean something in our lives. And sometimes we forget the human beings behind it on the other side. And this goes back to, again, I'll just say this. I know I've been dominating the talk on this, and I apologize for it. But one of the reasons that, like, if I had a vote, I would vote for Pete Rose is because I watched him play, and I know that might create a bias, but I don't think you could watch him play at all during his entire playing career and think that guy took a pitch off in his life. Yeah. And whatever he did after that and whatever he did off the field as a flawed human being, I know the stuff that we're talking about. And I know the rule that he broke. And I get it. If you can't wrap your mind around that and you're gonna withhold a vote or you're gonna stand in judgment of that. But if you can separate the player who's going to get voted for from the manager or the off the field guy, then it seems to me he gets the vote. I mean, I look at Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling's last year on the Hall of Fame ballot with the writers, I think was this past year, the year before. I voted for him. I voted for him even after he demonstrated himself to be kind of despicable, and hateful. But as a baseball player, he was a champion. He was exceptional. I never knew him to tear down his clubhouse. Yeah. So what he thought of me mattered a whole lot less than what he did on the field.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. It's not the National Hall of Great People.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
I think, and I know some baseball writers who vote with that thought in mind. You are drawing conclusions about the baseball player and not the human being.
Yeah.
Transgressions within the game of baseball.
Yes, teammate. Is he a good teammate?
Right.
By the way, everybody who's ever been a teammate of Pete Rose, for the most part, and you just talk to Terry Francona.
Yeah.
I mean, think he's a great teammate.
Obviously, Mike Schmidt.
Obviously, Mike Schmidt.
Third baseman to ever play the game, going to bat for this guy.
Johnny Bench.
The best catcher.
Who at times had conflicts and issues with Pete.
Yeah.
And did not think the commissioner was wrong to ban him. Still spoke on his behalf. Yeah. Still tried to mediate to try to get him, get the ban lifted. Still tried to come up with an agreement that if Pete followed it, he could work his way back into the game while he was still alive. I just talked to Johnny recently about that, and he reiterated some of those stories. So, and Johnny takes a lot of crap in this town for maybe being kind of perceived as anti-Pete or something like that, but he was not. I mean, they aren't they aren't the same personalities, and they kind of did their own things in their lives separate from one another. But as teammates, they were good teammates and obviously champion teammates. And Johnny was loyal to the teammate and tried to help him.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it incredible that after all these decades, this whole The whole Pete Rose conversation is still a living, breathing, developing organism. And we're not done yet.
Yeah,
that's a fact. Years still to go here.
Yeah. Yeah, minimum 3 years.
It's I don't think I'll have processed everything, frankly, until this homestand is over for the Reds. And maybe I have some quiet time to think through what's happened here. But we are watching history develop in real time.
Fawn Rose today said that when she went to the commissioner and met with the commissioner in December, I believe it was.
Yeah.
She said it was a great conversation, and the commissioner was very gracious. And she said by the time she came out of that, she felt like she'd made the case for the family that there was to make, and whatever he decided going forward was going to be it. Like that was going to be, in her mind, for the family, it was going to be put to rest one way or the other.
Yeah.
If he came out one more time and said, no, I'm not going to lift the ban, they were going to drop it, and they were going to just live with that. And now we've gotten the news that we got this week. And as you say, we're still going. So maybe that's a good place to leave off for now.
I think
if there's more to pick up on that, we can do next week.
We're going to pick up on it again. So
anyway, for Pat Brennan and our producer, Phil Didion, I'm Gordon Wittenmyer. That'll do it for a really special episode of the Big Pod Machine, which is the best baseball
still the best
podcast in the world.
So
thanks for listening, and go like us wherever. Hey Pat, where does this stuff show up? I'm not into this app
it's
stuff.
called the internet. It's been around for a little while now. Cincinnati.com. I'll tweet it out.
Oh, perfect. I'll retweet you. Anyway, with that, thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.